Welcome to the Crossfit Alioth Unleashed podcast, where we discuss health and fitness, mindset and business with your host, Coach Lloyd. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Alioth Unleashed, where we post updates and teasers on our upcoming guests and podcasts. All right, here we go. Another episode of the Alioth Unleashed podcast, episode 7. Lucky number 7. And today I have one of the OG members of the gym, who doesn't really come anymore, but it is indeed Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hello, Lloyd. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Thanks for coming on my podcast.
It's great. I've come on the podcast more times than I've been to the gym this year.
That's very true. You should be back soon.
I will be back soon.
Obviously, you're busy with whatever we're going to be talking about today. So
exactly.
For now, we will let you off for not coming to the gym.
Great, nice.
We're just going to start off with a quick intro about yourself, mate. Your name, your age, where you're from, how long you've been in Dubai.
Awesome. Right. Yeah, so my name's Chris. I am, I think, 39 years old.
You lose count, don't you, when you get older?
You do lose count. And I put it on an official form the other day, and I had to go back and go, I don't think I am. 1984.
I add up.
Yeah, 39. I Googled it. 39. Married to Ellen, who is also a long-time member of the gym, big CrossFitter, 2 kids, and I am the founder and owner of a meal prep company called Practical. I'm also a solid 6 out of 10 at CrossFit.
You reckon?
4, depending on if there's a barbell, 3.
And how long have you been in Dubai for?
Since 2016. It's been great. It's been a great place for me, actually. I really love it.
It goes pretty quick, right?
It goes extremely quick, actually, yeah.
One thing that you did tell me, and actually Munem brought this up, something that people probably don't know about you is you was basically an artist. Right?
I like to think of myself as an artist, yes.
Even now?
Ironically, actually, yeah, a little bit, actually, yeah.
So you was part of like a death metal band?
Yeah, I've had a sort of Forrest Gump-esque career where I do things in 7-year blocks, including one 7-year stint being in a signed heavy metal band, yes.
And you was the singer, right?
I was actually the backing singer and screamer and harmony guitar player. So I'm no stranger to having a microphone in front of my face, and I've got quite a loud voice, and I actually attribute that to spending my formative years screaming. I mean, between like 14 until 28, I got paid for screaming. So I've got a really loud voice. And actually a really loud, big diaphragm because of that.
It definitely comes in handy, right?
Not in CrossFit, though.
No, not in CrossFit.
Actually, no, for chest to bar, it's pretty good.
Right. That's a little bit about Chris. I mean, he could go on for hours about himself, but we're not going to let that happen.
First date. Excellent.
What is it? Tell people what is it you do?
Do you mean with Practical, the meal prep company?
Yeah, let's start with Practical.
So Practical is a company born out of my experience as a nutrition coach, where I've now coached hundreds, maybe even thousands of people. And what I've found when coaching people is that everyone has the right intentions, and a lot of people have some good knowledge. Mm-hmm. It's just putting it all together on a daily basis is incredibly hard. So Practical, which stands for practical calories, is my attempt to make life easier for everyone when it comes down to anything related to food.
Amazing. That's good for us, right? We want everything easy. Especially in Dubai, we pull up to the petrol station, we don't want to get out, people put petrol in for us, even if you can't get there, a truck will come and fill your car up even if you can't get there. So everything in Dubai, people want easy.
I think convenience gets a really bad rap. Because I think convenience, when someone says convenience, especially in the context of Dubai, people see it as being related to the word lazy. But actually, for most of us, whether you've got kids or whether you've got a career, 24 hours just isn't long enough. You work a full-time job and you want to sleep and you probably want to watch a bit of telly. You don't have a lot of time for anything else, right? So I don't see convenience as being a problem, actually.
I agree. We're going to dig deep into Practical more very shortly, but let's just take it back to, like you said, you've been here since 2016.
Yes.
What was you doing when you first come here in 2016?
So when I came here in 2016, Ellen and I moved here specifically so that we could save enough money so I could start my own business.
You finally got there.
Yeah, so we were in London before, and London, I loved living in London. We were there for 10 years, but we bought a flat, and it's very, very expensive to live in London. And so you find yourself thinking, I was in my early 30s, I'm never going to do the thing I really want to do. And prior to being here, in fact, while I was even here, I was working in food marketing. So I worked for some of the biggest food companies in the world, and some of the most famous brands in the world actually as well. And it was great, but again, like you get one time on this earth, and you want to make the most of it. And at some point, so you look at yourself and you go, well, I'm 32, I'm working really, really hard, but is this what I want to be remembered for?
Yeah.
And the answer was no.
So you took a risk.
Yes.
You was obviously working in corporate food companies,
Yeah.
and then you went from that to being self-employed, right?
I actually went from that to being fun-employed, as my friend said. So we agreed in advance that I was going to last 2 years in corporate here, save as much as we could, and then I was going to take a year off, like completely off, and that's what we did. Apart from I lasted less than 2 years. I think once you've got your foot out, you've got your foot out, if you know what I mean. So, but it was fine. It was great, and I learned how to do a handstand walk, and it's quite odd actually, because when I go to the gym and do CrossFit now, I'm not that good at CrossFit, but I do beguile a few people because I've got a few skills that I probably shouldn't have. But that's because when I was 33, I didn't do anything but do CrossFit. Yeah. For an entire year.
So for that fun employment sort of,
it was great
time of your life, was it just that you go into the gym, or did you do anything else? Did you study anything? Or
I actually, like a lot of people, I got my PT levels 2 and 3 at the same time.
Okay. So you made good use of it then. It wasn't just all play.
Yeah, but it was designed to be play. I was really burnt out by that point, like, and I've always been quite like a driven person, like to the point where it's actually a bit distracting and a bit destructive sometimes. And I'd imagine I had a 3-album deal with my, I had a 5-album deal actually with my heavy metal band. We were on the radio. We were successful in that sense. But what that meant was when I got back to university, I was a mature student. I then got a first-class degree and worked myself to the bone to do that. Yeah. And then I hit my career 7 years late. I then spent 5 years trying to catch up and did it. And you sometimes think, why am I on this treadmill? Yeah. What am I doing this for? So it was designed to just live your life for once instead of trying to grasp for something.
I mean, even though you've done it a little bit later, you've still done it. You're right. There's no like perfect time. Like, I guess it's just happened when it was supposed to happen for you. And look at you now. It's like it's got you to
a point
where you're going to be happy with Practical. Hopefully, obviously a dream of yours was to have your own company, and
it was exactly precisely.
You're sort of getting there now, so that's good. So how long were you this? Like, I mean, you've gone from self-employed to
funny. Yeah. So I was
now trying to open up your own company.
Yeah. So
it must have been a long time.
Yeah. I mean, it was 2017 was my fun employed time. 2017, 2018, and then I set up a business called Designed for Life Fitness at the time. And we weren't sure what it was going to be, but we knew it involved helping people and community and using some degree of the knowledge I had. And it turns out, because I'd spent my entire career in food marketing and learning about food, and in marketing, some see as a bit of a dirty word, but what it really means is communication, right? Yeah. So I know a lot about food, and I know a lot about communication, and I also know a lot about what it means to be successful in one field but seem to fail in another. Making money but not losing your health and things. And that business went from strength to strength, I think mainly because I had a background in corporate life. So I attacked I was just a single guy and I had clients, but I approached it in a very, very suited and booted type way. It was very organized. I think a lot of time in food and in fitness, you can kind of get away with it a little bit, just being a bit slack, and people kind of accept it. But so the moment that you add a bit of value and you're consistent and you follow up, it was great. So I got, I think you can always tell the strength of a business or a relationship when you gain new relationships based on referrals. For sure. The whole thing was based on referrals. Yeah. And which kind of brings us up to date, which is because Practical was born out of the fact that I had over hundreds of clients, and of those, a large proportion were like, Chris, we're paying you for a lot of food advice, but you never give us any food. could you please give us some food? Or at least, can we buy some food? And your clients, you get close to your clients, right? You learn about their successes and their failures and their families. And a lot of my clients were like, Chris, like, we see since COVID, we all see the Deliveroo drivers on the road, right? Mm-hmm. Food delivery here in Dubai, convenience, is massive, exploding, and still set to continue exploding, and across everywhere. And so I had a lot of clients stroke friends, because your clients kind of are your friends, saying, why don't you do this? To which I said, I don't have the backing nor the expertise in all of the extra areas, until the last couple of years, where I found myself in the lucky position to have met some people who could help my skill sets, and also provide a bit of funding as well, because setting up the way we're set up at the moment, I couldn't do it alone. I just couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. So now it's the time so now I've decided to take the plunge.
Perfect. So let's just explain to people in a few words of what Practical means and what it is.
Okay. Yeah. So as said before, Practical stands for practical calories. I've had hundreds of people work with all of the meal plans in Dubai. Each one of them has many positive points. But I'm yet to work with one that doesn't have a list of negative points as well. Each of the negative points is different for different plans. So Practical is my wholehearted aim is to create a meal plan with all of the good bits that I've seen in Dubai without all of the bad bits. And I'm sure if anyone's listening to this who's had a meal plan, I'm sure there's things that you go, oh, that's nice. But there's also things that immediately come to mind that bug you.
For sure.
Right? So why can't we just eliminate those bits? So that's what Practical is.
I mean, when it comes to, your competitors, things that I've dealt with is maybe bad customer service, or there's something wrong within the food's really good, but the vegetables might be a little bit sad, and it's just like little things like that. I mean, it's got to be a well-organized, ran business.
100%.
Right? From the people you've got on your team to the meals themselves. Yeah,
and food's an immensely complicated thing. It's one of the hardest businesses to work in, because you're delivering something to someone. One, if you get it wrong, really wrong, you can kill them, because they could be allergic, they could have allergies to peanuts, and you could deliver it. So which is funny, because you don't get that if you're in advertising. It doesn't happen. You don't see an advert for Coca-Cola and drop dead, right? Yeah. So the worst case. But even food is also inherently subjective, and it's more than just food. It's like you can have something one day and love it, and maybe in a different context, maybe you won't love it. Or maybe you could make a MasterChef winning meal, but you give it to 100 people, 10 of them are going to hate it. In fact, I'm sure we've all seen cooking shows where everyone's fawning over these, I don't know, for me, so I'm not a big fan of seafood, for example. So if I ever, I saw an episode of MasterChef where there was like a prawn paella, and everyone's like, oh, it's delicious. And I don't care if Gordon Ramsay cooks it. It's not for me.
We've just lost a few listeners there.
No, we have seafood, I'm afraid, but it's all tested by my wife. Yeah. I was actually saying to someone the other day, because I have to test everything, right? And I realized that my team don't like me for doing this, but of course I get food from them and I send it back, because I know I have enough experience with my clients to know what people generally will like or not like. So I'm fairly confident to say, this is good, maybe we could work on this, etc. With prawns, though, I'm a negative Nancy. Nothing's good enough because I don't really like them. So I've had to deputise that out to my wife, who's had to deal with it.
Well, I bet she loves it.
She does love it because like every northerner from the UK, it's free food.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what did he say? It's like you are like your best and worst critic yourself, right?
100%.
So it's your food company. You're trying the food, and I think that's the best way of doing it, rather than get other people to maybe try it for you or decide. If you're the man that decides that food's not good enough, then
that's exactly it. And someone the other day was talking to me about how refined my palate needs to be. How qualified am I in that? Why does my taste define what's good? And to which I reply, it's not really my taste, it's just my experience. I think we've all been in that situation where we're going to give something to a client or to a friend, and we can kind of anticipate how they're going to react. Usually we get it right. Sometimes we get it dreadfully wrong, but usually we do. So whenever I get a meal from our kitchen, I'm not usually eating it in the sense, tasting it going, it needs to have more salt, it needs to have this and this and this. I'm actually more thinking of all the various people I've ever worked with, whether they are skinny or a CrossFit Games athlete, and whether they're from Mumbai or California, it doesn't matter really. It's thinking across the board, if I gave this out to, say, 500 people I knew, is this going to be a winner or is this going to be a nightmare? If I've got a hint it's a nightmare, it goes back and we either abandon it or we tweak it so it feels like, no, I can back this up.
Yeah.
You know? But it's very subjective, that.
I think Chris is like the Gordon Ramsay of meal preps.
I don't know about that, but I am quite a hard person to work for, actually, because it's my life and it's my family's life. I've got quite I think anyway, I think I've got quite like a bubbly personality at the gym, and certainly in social media, like that's the way I am innately. However, this is deadly serious for me. This is like, because this is something I've wanted to do for years, and it also impacts. I'm asking people to invest their time and their hard-earned money in a product, and I'm doing it at the moment on faith alone, and I don't take it very lightly. So when it comes to things like whether a meal is good enough or bad enough, there isn't Chris at the 4:30 p.m. class at Alioth having a laugh. It's please can you send that? Please can you do it again?
Yeah. Nice to see that side of Chris, I think. I'll have to come into the practical kitchen one day.
Yeah. I'm not even in the kitchen anymore.
Yeah.
I'm outside. I've given myself distance from the.
Good.
I take distance from the kitchen.
Yeah. So Practical is this new meal plan company that people will see eventually, which should be very soon.
You just post just after Eid.
Just after Eid, inshallah. What are Practical's values? Because obviously now you're setting up this new company. Companies have to have values.
Yeah.
Give me a few of your values.
By the way, it's funny. Brand values are one of those things that are kind of like, I think, to people who maybe who haven't thought about it, they seem like a gigantic waste of time, actually. Like, and just hot air, words. What are words, right? The reason that and actually, to be honest, in my old company, I used to also think that as well a little bit. I used to do brand values for big brands, and I was like, what am I talking about, really? Yeah. But so Practical is an extension of me. In fact, it is me, essentially. So when writing said brand values, it's pretty easy, and I wrote them down. So that I have a bit of a North Star as to what I think as to if something is good or bad, essentially, if it fits or it doesn't. So I've got a long list of them, but they're the values that I hold true to myself. So one is being straight talking. So, which I think you can probably tell, hopefully you can tell here that I am straight talking. Being completely transparent to the point where it's slightly uncomfortable, actually. So, especially with food, I think we've all been to restaurants, and well, in fact, let's go to meal plan companies. How many people do you believe the calories and the macros that are on your meal plan company box? I bet you don't.
I don't.
No one does. No one does. Because that's probably because it's not true. And in fact, I actually work with meal plan companies and I've been to the kitchens of them and restaurants. Pretty much universally, their figures are, made up's too strong. It's really easy to count calories badly. And so what they do is they put the cheapest resource they can on it for the shortest amount of time. It's invariably wrong. Someone who doesn't know the difference between Greek yogurt and low-fat yogurt, for example, which will completely skew the calories and the macros. So one of my values, if straight talking's one, as in I don't believe they're accurate, because there we go. Two is transparency as well. Beautiful. So yeah. The other one I would say would be empathetic, not sympathetic. Mm-hmm. So sympathetic is like, oh, woe is you. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that empathy with people, because life's hard in Dubai. Not just in Dubai. Life is generally just hard. I think we all know that. So the job of this company is to be flexible and to allow and to work with people, not pretend that problems don't exist, because they do. Like, life is tough. I'm blessed to have two wonderful kids. Is my life roses? No, it's actually really, really tough. So there's another one, but I think there's many of them. But I think transparency out of all of them is it. Yeah. So you'll find as we go, and I'll be quiet in a moment, that you'll find in our social media as well and on our website and everything that you'll find that I will roll back the curtain if there is a curtain, and you can see exactly how we do it.
Yeah, what's going on?
Because if I spend my whole career in marketing products, that's a kind of a synonym for lying in a soft way. And I'm not going to do that. And I haven't done that for years, and I don't want to do that. So I'm not trying to rip anyone off. I'm actually trying to provide something that I think is going to be amazing for people. So why not be as transparent as possible?
Yeah, I agree. I like it. So there's Practical's values. What makes you different? What makes Practical different from all these other companies? Why would people want to go with Practical rather than a different meal company?
Sure. So there are many specific reasons that add up to a whole. And the whole, I suppose, which sounds very airy-fairy, is that I think we have there's a different intent behind the business. And what that means is the intent is wholly customer-focused, not business-focused. So I spent 5 solid years coaching people, hearing about their highs and their lows. And their lows, a lot of the time, were caused by external companies letting them down, right? So if the whole point of the business is to take the good bits of other companies and remove all the bad bits, I'm doing that because I know that makes my job harder. Because there's a reason why companies do all those things. Sure. There's a reason why companies are a bit lax with their calories and their macros. It's because it's a pain to sort it out. And not just those things. I mean, to be honest, that's actually one of the least. There's so many other things, so many other issues. So I distilled down, there's about 7 or 8 things that really annoyed a large portion of my customer base who use meal plans. And the reason Practical is different is because we've solved those points. And the reason we've solved them is because the business is wholly 100% focused on the customer experience, not on the bottom line for me or my investors. Sorry, investors. It's a bit, because my belief is that if you can make the experience 100% or as close as you can in the real life, 100% for a customer, they'll refer you. And this is a business where companies live or die by their renewal rates. How many people have done a meal plan for a couple of months or a month and then got bored, given up, stopped, gone to a new one, blah, 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 right?
Many people.
We don't know the exact numbers. It's way over half. It's literally like, say you get 100 people, we're talking like 60 of them are going to drop.
More.
Right?
For sure.
So how do you solve that? And when you say to people, why did you leave your meal plan? They'll give you a load of stuff, right? They'll go like, 1, I got bored of it. There's no variety. 2, they messed up my order. 3, they weren't flexible enough. 4, the meals were too big and or too small, depending on what it is. 5, the macros seemed wrong. 6, they hid the price and it was too expensive. There's just a few of them. Yeah. All right, there's 6 things. Why don't we get rid of all of those? What's the opposite of all of them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No matter what the cost in terms of my business architecture, my job has been to do it. So why haven't I been to the gym? Because I spent the last year creating what I believe is the best meal plan on earth.
Mm-hmm. On earth?
Yeah, on earth.
Damn. Love it. So it's funny because you just listed those 6 things, and portion size is relative, like, to the person, right? So your portion size, I could have 3 meals, really big, 3 big meals, or
yes.
I could have 5 really small ones, depending on how I eat.
Of course.
All right.
Yes.
So how are you going to sort of adapt this into people's meal plans?
Yeah, this has been a tricky one, and one that my kitchen doesn't like me for, right? So the way I wanted to set this up was, one of the things I don't like about certain meal plans, I understand why they do it, but I don't particularly like it, is they have cyclic menus. So you get your meals for 1 week, and then they say, great, nice one, now we're on to the next week, and you've got a choice, but it's limited by what the kitchen's going to make that week. Yeah. Now, call me naive, right? But when I go to a restaurant in the mall, say my favorite restaurant, when I go into Cheesecake Factory, right? When I go into that restaurant, there's loads of choices. It doesn't change every week. They might have a special in the summer or whatever, but you just go into the restaurant and you can do it. And in my naive view, well, when I walk into Cheesecake Factory, they don't know what I'm going to order, right? So they have to be prepared for anything, right? Meal plans don't operate like that, a lot of them.
Correct.
Even though you give them a week's notice, they still don't operate like that. I understand why, by the way. There's a really complicated and quite difficult process that goes on with meal plans. Anyway, but I'm not having it. So we set up like a restaurant, right? Now, So we set up like a restaurant, which means that we've got over 100 miles more than 100 options that people can choose from, like a restaurant, as in like you can choose what you want any day. It's fine. We're good to go on everything. Yeah. But more than that, sizes, portion sizes. One thing that Cheesecake Factory doesn't do, like Cheesecake Factory is quite famous for having massive portions, right? So, which is great if you're in the mood to have a massive portion or if you've got loads of self-control, right? Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if you could go into Cheesecake Factory and you could say for example, you really like the Cheesecake Factory spaghetti bolognese. Great. Maybe you don't want to have 1,000 and 1,400 calories of spaghetti bolognese. Maybe you want 400 or 500 or 600 or 700 or 800. And that's what we're doing. So of the meals, let's just say for ease, we've got 200 of them. Every single meal, you can choose the size. 400, 500, 600, 700 or 800 calorie portions. The meals remain the same. The macros remain the same. So actually, I've got an example here actually, by the way.
Go on.
So it's with the spaghetti bolognese, it's quite easy as well, because with the spaghetti bolognese, it's just how much spaghetti bolognese is in the bowl. It's like how big's the bowl, basically, right? Yeah. Here's a panini, right? This is panini's. This is a 400 calorie panini, right? Great, nice one. It's barbecue. Look at that. There you go. It's barbecue beef. It's not cooked, not right?
Edible. So yeah, not edible.
It's a barbecue beef panini. It's got some cheese on it. It's barbecue beef. It's beef barbecue. Nice one. Panini. There you go. Right. To me, if I got that, because I like portions at 600. I've got clients who I've worked with who this is the perfect size for them. It feels like a good amount to eat. It's like their perfect portion size, right? Feels great. Like fills them up, but doesn't make them feel guilty, for example, right?
That for me is a snack.
It's a snack to me, exactly. Right, exactly. So here we go. So this is 800, right? And it's pretty obvious, right?
Double the amount.
Guess what? It's double, right? But this is the sort of thing that, wouldn't it be amazing if restaurants did this? Well, guess what? We're doing it. Yeah. Now, my kitchen, honestly, hate is a strong word, but let's use it. They don't like...
You're just making their life a little bit
I'm making their life very hard, because I'm saying, we've got 200 meals, and they're going, no, we haven't. We've got 1,000 variants. I'm like, yeah, we've got 1,000 variants. But it's my firm belief that if every meal... I'll use my wife and me as an example. My wife likes eating meals that are about 500 calories. That kind of feels about right for her, about right. And I like meals that are bigger than that. So, but we both like the same sort of food sometimes. So on our meal plan, when she orders it and when I order it, it'll be different sizes. Yeah. And the price will be adjusted purely on the calorie load, nothing else.
I see. So when people want a meal plan from Practical, are you going to give them some sort of help on how many calories they should be eating a day, or the macros? Like, what's the script there?
Yeah, we are if they want it. I'm conscious that like the people I imagine who are listening to this podcast are CrossFitters, and CrossFitters generally have quite a decent knowledge of their food, sometimes their calories and their macros. Sometimes they don't, and it's absolutely fine. So there's two ways in for our customers. One, you meet people who just know what they want. They've usually used meal plans before. Like, yeah, I know my calories, I know my macros. I want a good price and some good variety. Great. Don't make me do a quiz. Don't make me do that, because I already know. Mm-hmm. Fine. But there are plenty of other people who don't know, or people who think they know but wouldn't mind finding out, right? I used to onboard people with an 87-point questionnaire, which took 45 minutes, because that's the sort of man I am. We've dropped that down to 7 questions, 7 like essential questions at the beginning. There's another 4 afterwards. And the essential things there are, 1, figuring out what calorie load people need, but also what is their perfect portion size, right? Because that'll determine whether you're getting something like this or something like this or something in the middle, because we've got 5 variants. There we go. That's kind of all right. But the other crucial difference, one of the many crucial differences is again back to this difference of intent. So we ask people how many meals do they normally have in a day? Not how many meals that we want to give them, just like actually genuinely, like how many meals do you have in a day? Like, Lloyd, how many meals do you have in a day?
5.
5, right? And if you're going to get one, and you're on a meal plan,
I'm
right?
on a meal plan, they give me 3.
They give you
meals,
3,
so
right?
I add 2.
Right, so you have to add 2. Right, great. So I have 4 meals and I'd have 2, because to be honest, I'd be like, well, I can make breakfast myself and I don't want to pay for it. Is the actual truth of it, right? Great. So my experience with working with people who are on meal plans, who like their meal plan, who still have a hard time hitting their goals, it's not the meal plan that's the problem in that sense. It's the other meals. It's the other times. So they eat their meal plan food, that's fine. Then they're in the mall, they're tired, they don't know where to go, so they go out and get this or that or whatever. You find that the meal plan meals are great, but the other 60% of the day, and you have 3 meals, sorry.
I have 3 meals.
Yeah, that's right. So the other 40% of your day could be essentially chaos. Obviously, I'm talking to a coach here who knows what they're talking about, but there are many people who are stressed, who do know what they're talking about, who've got no time to think about it like that. And that's where it all falls apart. So the good thing about having a perfect portion size is, let's use 600 calories for me as an example. I'm gonna have 2 meals from Practical, but there's gonna be 2 other meals in the day that I've got to sort out myself. So it's my responsibility with Practical to, one, when I log in, I can click on make yourself, and you also get a ridiculous list of things you can just make yourself for 600 calories as well. So how many cornflakes is 600 calories, right? For example, how many rounds of toast is that? Like basic stuff. Yeah. But also, if I'm in DIFC and I'm out with one of my clients, and I want to go out to like a decent restaurant, where can I go, right? You know, so that's the other thing. So we have got an ever-growing list of partner restaurants who have very kindly provided us with their menus, their calories, and their macros. And if not, I've gone and done it. So I can send me a list of everywhere in Dubai where you can get 600s easily, which is awesome because that means I'm covered when I'm by myself. I've got the meals that are coming already and they're fine, or I can change them. And I also know what to do when I'm going out. And if that happens, that's good.
Have I not got a little problem though? Because if I'm on 400 calorie meals and I go to one of your cafe shops, which I know you're working with Cafe Rider, which everybody from CrossFit...
Yeah, Cafe Rider is a great example.
CrossFit Alioth, obviously the members from the go there because it's the closest.
Yeah, Steph Narciso, they're great.
I go to Cafe Rider for my breakfast all the time. Let's say it says 600 calories on there, but you've told me like for my portion size it should be 400 calories. I want 400 calories in my breakfast, but I love the omelette and it says 600 calories. What am I going to do?
Well, you're probably going to have the omelette for now because I haven't got enough power yet to tell them to change what they have. However, knowledge is power in this situation, right? So their meals, their calories are accurate, by the way, because I helped them do it, right? Sure. Great. So you love the omelette, which is 600. So we also make sure we let people know when people sign up, we let them know a few of the sort of real basic things that they need to know. Like 1, how many calories do we believe they need to have in a day to actually hit their goals, right? And then 2, what's their perfect portion size in our opinion and how it would divide up, how it would kind of fit in. Now, if you're having a 600 calorie meal from Ryder in the morning and then you're having your normal stuff, you just know that you're 200 up, right? That's it. Now, by the way, I would suggest just live your life and do it and see what happens. But you now know that you're 200. One of the biggest insights I got from people was just that you don't need something super complicated. People just need to know where they're at in a day, and then they can start making smarter choices.
Yeah, agreed.
So if you gain weight, it's because you're having 600 calories in the morning, mate. And so I'd have something smaller later on. Or
I need to put on the weight.
Or just say to Ryder, hey guys, that omelette, can you drop it down?
Make it 2 eggs and not 3.
Yeah, and then you're done. And then, by the way, you're then done forever.
As well, because I'm always there spending a lot of money.
Yeah, so. But that's really powerful because then that's it. You're finished. Until you move, until they close down, you're sorted. That's actually worth a lot, actually.
Yeah. Another thing that probably annoys most people when it comes to these meal plans is, like you said, like I might be out with a client. I might decide that, the day before I go out, I'm going to go out for lunch with some friends. I might have to go for a burger, but I've got my meal plan on Thursdays and I'm going to have a little bit of a backup in my fridge and I'm going to have all these meals and come the weekend, there's a meal there, but it's the weekend, so I'm not going to eat it and I just throw this food away. Are you coming up with any sort of master plan to sort that out?
Yeah,
I don't want wasted food,
Yeah, it's funny with wasted food's interesting, isn't it? Because I'm sure a lot of people who've been on meal plans, and maybe not, people who just like shopping, right? You can relate to that feeling of going, the food's stacking up in my fridge, and it happens a lot around like big seasons. Like for me, around Christmas season, I find that I've just got this fridge of stuff that's going off. Yeah. Do you give it to the doorman? Do you eat it yourself? In my experience, I eat it myself because I'm too tight to give it away. Yeah. But it doesn't help with my goals. So we've got a thing called a last minute pause pass, which is when you get a call from someone saying, oh, do you want to meet up? But you know that you've got meals coming tomorrow and you're not going to have your dinner, just press the button and we just don't turn up the next day. And that's it.
Beautiful.
Now, to be transparent, I wanted it to be that, say if you were ordering 2 meals, we'd come the next day with just 1 meal.
Yeah.
But it destroyed us on logistics, so we can't do it. Okay. So at the moment, it's just... which just won't come the next day. You get yourself caught up. That means you have the meal that you were going to have if you want it, and you've got to find yourself another 600, and then you're off. Okay. Off to the races. In the future, I'd like it so that we just deliver the one meal.
I mean, you're doing pretty well there, because most companies would want maybe 2 or 3 days notice, right?
Yeah, no, we don't. So I'm pushing that as late as possible. It's as late as we can do without hurting the company.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Yeah. But again, it's like, that's customer first stuff, right? So like, we've specifically arranged all of our deliveries and our cooking times. We backload them in the day on purpose. We do the prep work at the beginning, and then we do everything that, there are some things that, because if you imagine, the reason they don't let you do it is obvious, right? They've made something and you cancel it, it doesn't work. So the only way you get around that is by cooking the food as late as possible before it gets taken into the van to be dropped off. That's not easy to do. You have to be smart about what foods you can prepare in advance that aren't affected by your decisions. Again, just one of the many reasons why the kitchen staff
love
me. Love's a better word than hate.
Yeah, right. That's a bit about Practical, its values. What makes you different, which is very nice to know. I just want to know a bit now about the journey itself of from your company before, which was Designed for Life, going to Practical, opening the kitchen, and sort of where you're at now, like the journey from the beginning to where you're at now, and what sort of challenges you've faced along the way, setting up this world's best meal plan.
Nice.
I sold it for you there.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. So I think people in CrossFit, someone who called it the other day, the CrossFit is the infinite game, essentially. Like, there's always something to master.
So true.
Yeah, right. It's like, and I think a lot of us in this sport, especially, we like the feeling of progress, whether it's just getting your first pull up or whether it's getting for me, like stringing together I strung together 8 chest to bar, like, yeah, incredible. And, but the thing is, as I'm sure in CrossFit, for me now, I'm like, why haven't I got 10? Why aren't they proper butterfly? But you have to go, well, hold on a minute. Let's just look back 3 years when you couldn't do a pull up, right? And Practical is a bit like that for me at the moment, because I'm an extremely driven person. Right now, as of right now, I'm stood over, not right now, I was about half an hour ago, stood over a 1,500 square foot kitchen in Alcuz with 200 meals, a full team of chefs that would work that means the kitchen's open 7 days a week, can do anything we want. I'm now throwing out phrases like world's best because I'm confident. We've got a best in class website. It's funny because you can still see the problems, right? That's the thing. But I have to sometimes look back and go, well, it was 7 or 8 years ago, you were in a job you didn't like, but your job that was good, but you didn't like. And 5 years ago, you couldn't do a handstand push-up, and you spent a year learning how to do a handstand. 4 years ago, a very good guy called Tim Edwards got me in, and I met a few of the coaches at the gym at the time, and I started getting clients. I was like, this is working. And then a couple of years back, James gave me the great honor of like doing some videos with Munem, and then took me on as a part-time member of staff. And now I'm in a position, and I've got enough people around me and a good enough network to help me bring this, whatever it's called, like create something. Yeah. I often think of it as like pushing water uphill. It's like, because I know what I want to get to, but every day is just a litany of things that are just not quite right. But that's because we're building it from scratch as well. I
mean, I think you're going to find that in any sort of business, right? You sort of learn as you go on. It's not going to be perfect, especially in the first year. You're definitely going to find things that annoy you, that you need to change, that you learn from, and your business will grow from that, right?
Absolutely. I think you've got to have that sort of attitude of like, it's not going to be perfect. Honestly, the fundamental issue we've had with Practical is that because I'm aggressively going after things that I think are wrong with other similar businesses, it's very hard to copy anything, because that's what you do when you set up a business, right? You essentially go, I want to be in this field. I'll look for the best in class people. I'm going to smash it. It's going to be great. The problem is, every single part, from the sourcing of the ingredients through to the recipe creation, through to the portion control, through to the website experience, through to the delivery, I can't copy because there's something about it that has annoyed one of my clients. So I'm building it from. I think a lot of coaches use True Coach, don't they? Sometimes as a thing that they can do.
Program.
So I built when I worked with Design for Life, I built my own version of True Coach. I didn't use True Coach. In fact, I built my own thing from scratch, which hurt me in terms of time, but it was my own thing and I felt really comfortable with it. And Practical is exactly like that. So I could have done the True Coach version, which is taking the existing model and basically just rebranding it. Put myself on Instagram, it's all good, it's fine. But I have to live with this. Like I'm a member of the gym. I love the gym. I hope that I'll get some people who want to try Practical from the gym, but I'm going to be in the class with them and I don't want them to look at me and go, it was a waste of money. I want them to go, oh wow, it was great. I don't want them to say, it's the best thing that ever happened to me either. Like I'm aware of where we are in the pecking order of life. You know, it's not your wedding day, but it is something that I think can add a huge amount of value to people. And I think there's a big responsibility there as well. Because it's someone else's money and faith.
Yeah. I mean, there is a big responsibility because CrossFit Alioth will be partnering with you as well.
Yeah.
So you've got to think about that. You don't want to upset James or
I don't want to upset James and the coaches as well. Like, but it's good to stay. It's good to try. It's good to stay humble and stay open to things. Like I learned, I had a meeting with Rachel and James the other day about the meal plan, and they were really, really engaged with it. But Rachel said something to me in the meeting about protein levels outside of meals. And immediately I was like, she made a really, really good point. And instead of going, nice one, and then just walking away and forgetting about it, I wrote it down, got in the car, had a strategic meeting with a couple of the people in our business and said, we need to change something in order to make this happen. And then the kitchen loved me.
I think to me, what this seems like is, someone behind a meal plan company that actually cares, because I've dealt with many meal prep companies, and you just sort of get the feeling that they're just out there to do the very little work and just try and make as much money. Which for you, I know obviously as a business you've got to think about money at some point, but for you it's not come from that. It's come from wanting to be the best sort of different meal plan about, and for people to actually appreciate this new sort of meal plan which nobody else is doing. Which the other thing comes across well.
Thank you, mate. I think the other thing just to say is that I myself, it's nice to have the opportunity to create something that you would want. So like, I'm also doing this like for me. It's a selfish thing too. Like if I've got a kitchen, I want some food out of it, right? And I've been through many points in my life where I can't afford a meal plan. Meal plans sometimes they're not that cheap, right? But equally, food isn't that cheap in Dubai as well. Actually, really. So I want to make sure that it does something like literally for me. I'm currently in an office in the middle of Al Quoz, right? Al Quoz is not the easiest place to get healthy, fresh stuff. I think we all know that. It's pretty easy to get a delivery in Al Quoz, don't get me wrong.
Oh, you want a mandi? You can get.
I had an incredible biryani the other day, like it's incredible. However, I can feel it on myself even now as we were setting up the kitchen. I can feel it on my skin. I'm not eating as well as I could be because I'm in a food desert. So there are plenty of people doing that, right? So my job is to help them out of it. But I'm also helping myself. Yeah. So there's a bit of, selfishness there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be, right? As you mentioned briefly just before, you have been working with Alioth before.
Yes.
You was a member since just after COVID. And you was working with us being a nutrition coach for some members, some staff. How has working with us helped you with Practical? Like, what insights did you find? How has that helped you, gain knowledge for setting up a business?
Do you know? So it's been one of the privileges of my life to get in and work with Alioth. Alioth is one of those. I think
the best gym.
The best
works
gym.
with the best meal prep
exactly. But I really don't make light of it. I actually was doing CrossFit first of all in fitness first, and and like many people, was probably too scared to come to do a real CrossFit class, and then especially too scared for Alioth or Alioth, however you say it, right? Yeah. And one of the things I found once I was working with people, because I was working with people in Alioth before I was a member at Alioth. Yeah, terrible, I know. One of the major insights I found was that I was a bit starstruck by some of the people I was working with, right? And one of the biggest insights was that they were just like me. Yeah. Because I was like,
normal people.
Yeah, they are normal people. Yeah, just because you can do a whatever, like, 220 kilo back squat or whatever, right? Like, everyone has difficult diaries. Everyone has good days and bad days. Everyone has foods and things that make them feel not good, but they still kind of go to. Most people eat emotionally to some degree. And one of the things I've found with that is that therefore sometimes you can't force people to be like scientists about things. Like sometimes it's just like people want to do stuff and they're going to do it. So one good example I think is that it's taught me that we only have two types of meals on our plans. We have calorie counted meals or we have calorie counted and macro balanced meals. And macro balanced meals just means around 25% of the energy in the meal comes from protein, right? And that's based on the insight that people say when they start, especially when they work with a nutritionist, they're like, I'm going to eat most people need to eat more protein. I'm going to have a high protein diet and I'm going to have these meals that are high protein. But I know either from watching them or just also from talking to them, really, they really like Honey Nut Cheerios, for example. Ugh. And they'll have that, right? Yeah. That meal's a real carb fest, right? There's not a lot of protein in that meal. So they'll say to me, how do I make Honey Nut Cheerios high protein? And I could be like, what you need to do is get 2 scoops of Optimum Nutrition Hydro Whey and throw it in. That's not what they want. They want that cereal because they want to get it out of the box and just eat it. That's what they want. And what you realize is that, but if they're having 3 meals a day, if you do the maths, you go, well, if 25% of the calories from meals 2 and 3, which I'll make nice, I've got protein in them, and they may be having something else, it's fine if they have those Cheerios. So let's not vilify them about this. And this is one of the big things I learned at Alioth, because you've got some incredible athletes there, but also you've also got some people who've got incredible jobs in Alioth as well. You meet some incredible people there. And it doesn't matter. So some of these people are at the top echelons of sport. Some people are at the top echelons of intellect. We all like Honey Nut Cheerios, it turns out. Yeah. We've all got our version of Honey Nut Cheerios. And so that was a really big insight for me, that instead of having to do like the super hyper macro life, why don't we just give people 2 choices? Yeah. So I like pancakes, right? So they're not macro balanced. And we all know real pancakes taste better than protein pancakes. So I still want them on my plan. I just want to know that if I have the other meals, I'm okay. So yeah, it's just finding out that Alioth taught me that people at the top end of the sport and members who are at the top end of the general population are just like normal people too. That's what it really, really taught me.
Yeah. And why is Practical ideal for our members then?
So
you can sell yourself to our members right now. Or anyone that's listening to this podcast.
Yeah, why is that? Yeah. Well,
why is it?
I'm going to say something controversial. I'm not sure whether anything else was controversial, but is this controversial? I don't know. You tell me. So, CrossFit, I think years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, I think CrossFit had a sort of an angle of it makes you look good as well in the sport. I think it even had it as part of their branding at one point years ago, right? And for a lot of people, looking good involves being leaner, right? Because it was having more definition, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's a sort of like innate promise within the sport that, like, you'll do it, you'll look a bit better, as well as all the other stuff. There's a sort of like soft sell of like, we all know who the stars of the sports are. Especially the guys. I mean, the guys, it's like a Superman sport, right? It's ridiculous. Yeah. My wife has a thing for Jacob Hepner, right? For example, I
don't blame her.
Don't blame her. Great, right? But there's a cruel twist in about CrossFit, isn't it? Which is that for many, it doesn't burn that many calories, like versus running a marathon. It literally doesn't. So if you look at like exercises across that burn calories across 60 minutes, for example, like fine, doing Murph does, right? But doing 5x5 or less, working on your 1RM clean and jerk, it burns calories, don't get me wrong, it does, and it is a workout. I do CrossFit, I'm caveating this, but it's not the same as getting on a stair walker and going up a stairs for 60 minutes. It's not the same as climbing a mountain. It's just not. But it makes you feel like it is. So you do an 8-minute workout, box jumps, double unders, and handstand push-ups at the gym. I finished that workout, and I'm probably like the third worst in the class. I feel like I deserve the Cheesecake Factory right there because I've worked so hard. The maths doesn't add up. And so over time, you realize in CrossFit, quite a lot of people you see people who get it right and are really committed. There are people in Alioth who've made massive changes. I won't call them out, but I can think of like 10 people who are like changed. I can think quite a lot of people who haven't changed, right? Or maybe, right?
I'm laughing because I just know exactly who you're about.
Right. So but the sport makes you feel like you're working incredibly hard because you are, but you're working hard in very specific time domains. So why Practical is useful, I think, for the members is because everything's hyper controlled. So it's not like most meal plans where we don't really trust the macros, whatever, and it's all very, very rigid. So like you know how many I know exactly how many literally I know exactly how many calories are in that, and I know exactly how many calories are in that. So you can do the plan. If you're not getting the results, just change. We're a new variable. Just change the calories. So it's not like changing the meals. I've got to guess what this meal is going to be. No, you can have anything. The meals can be the same. They can be exactly the same. You can just go, do you know what, Chris? I want every meal to be 100 calories lower. Make it like that. It'll take me one day. So I need 36 hours. Your menu will be exactly the same. The same. Apart from all your meals will be 100 calories lower. Perfect. You can even do it just with one meal. Not even all the meals. What about just one meal? My breakfast feels a bit heavy. So you can tweak around the edges. So I think what Practical is really good for is practically speaking, if you want to achieve a goal in CrossFit and you're not achieving a goal in CrossFit and you go into CrossFit, it's probably your food. And this is the easiest food plan you can manipulate in the world again. That's why.
Agreed. I think if people do get on this meal plan, which they should.
Thank you, Lloyd.
I think communication's key. Just like you said, like if you want like 100 calories less, or I think for the first couple of weeks, it is like trial and error for most people, for everyone. So I think communication between the client of yours and yourself or your staff has to be on point.
Yeah, it does. It's actually immensely complex. I've learned this. I mean, isn't CrossFit brilliant? Because CrossFit takes something that's actually innately quite complicated, which is the human physiology and progressive overload and variety, and puts it in a package that you can basically sell to anyone and people can kind of get their heads around it. It's actually, Greg Glassman is a genius for that, right? Absolutely. And that's why, right?
It's loaded.
Absolutely, right? But even then, even with like that methodology, you still have to have a coach and a good community. That's the joy of it. And people ask questions. People ask questions because people don't know or don't have the time to think about it. Or also, I'm paying you because they don't want to think about it as well. Food is like that. I would argue but it's more complicated because there's also a massive emotional. Well, not saying there's not an emotional complex to the gym work, but food is more than just calories, and food is more than just micronutrients, and food is more than just who you're having it with. It's your culture, it's your family, it's your history. I've learned that you've got to be really delicate around food. Food isn't logic. Food is logic and emotion at the same time. So communication is absolutely right.
What does the future hold for Practical and Alioth? Like, I mean, you can tell us the future for Practical, where you want it to go, and then tell me the future of what you plan to do with us as well.
Yeah, I suppose my initial response to that is the immediate future, and this is my hope. By the way, this is not a contracted, set in stone thing. But my hope is that I can continue using Alioth as a second home for me, my family, and the business. And what I mean by that is that in order for Practical to be successful, I'm going to have to expand way beyond CrossFit Alioth, right? But Alioth is where I feel comfortable. It's where my wife feels comfortable. It's where I basically bring my child up in the gym, right? So the near future, what I hope is that I can find a group of people who, whether they're customers or not, to be honest, it's just people at Saturday Sweat or at the endurance classes who can help me create the best meal plan I can create, right? And the aim to be the best meal plan in the world, right? So what I hope is that over the next month, I think we've got a couple of announcements coming up soon about when we're going to start doing catering. You'll see us as a more regular fixture in the gym. And I'm not trying to sell you stuff in the gym. I'm trying to use your palate, and especially people who've just finished training, to help me figure out what's good and what's bad. So the near future is that I want a partnership where it feels just like, we don't feel like a third party coming in and just like, oh, they're here this week. Yeah. It should be like, oh yeah, I know they're going to be here and they're going to be trying out some different stuff this week. Yeah. One week it could be paninis. It doesn't really matter. I'd like Alioth. So when I go in meet, insert other business somewhere, it's not just me and my kitchen. It's me and the 500 strong membership of Alioth, and it carries me through. That's my real hope for the near future. And for the far future, food is, I think food, telecommunications and automotive are the most competitive industries on the planet, probably maybe crypto at the moment, I don't know. The business has to expand and expand fairly aggressively as well. Dubai, we already can deliver across the country, and beyond. That's already happening at the moment.
I think with regards to expansion, you are in probably one of the best places to expand. Like,
absolutely.
Dubai is the city of opportunities.
Absolutely.
And I think with the way you're sort of going about Practical and trying to make it, as good as you possibly can without any sort of problems.
Trying.
It's only going to expand itself anyway. If you're doing all these correct things, it's only going to go one direction. It's not going to go the other direction.
I really hope
Hopefully.
so. Exactly. And I think to anyone who's listening to this, who's thinking about signing up with us, I would say that you're coming on a bit of a journey with us at the beginning, and there will be mistakes. There will, because nothing's perfect at the start. But I think the worst thing in the world is, and I'm sure we've had this when we're dealing with customer service, you feel like you're shouting into the dark. You'll be shouting at me, and I will change it. It just might take me a few days, and the kitchen will love me again. Yeah. But that's the thing. You've got to. But again, that comes back to the first point. It's the difference isn't. The difference is there's points in the product that are different, but the difference is in the difference of intent, right? I intend to deliver on it being the best meal plan in the world. Yeah. If you do not like a part of it, well, it isn't the best meal plan in the world. So let's shave off that rough edge. Mm-hmm. That's going to happen indefinitely, but more at the beginning. So I would invite people to come on the journey with us. And I do believe that where we're at right now makes us an incredibly compelling prospect for people. But we can be better, and we'll always be able. We're always like that. I mean, the same as Alioth, right? I see new things all the time from the gym. It's really, that's the whole point. Yeah. If you there's only two in life. There's only two ways to go, right? Up or down. So let's continue to go up.
Might be some downs, but that's part of the process, right?
Yeah.
I'm happy that Practical will be on the podcast more or less every time we do one, because we've agreed a sponsorship deal.
We have. So you're going to get 100-calorie protein balls.
We're going to get some protein balls and coffee.
Yes, and
myself and all my guests on every single podcast.
Absolutely.
So what are these that you've got here?
So these are cookie dough protein balls.
All right, well, I'm going to have one, and then I'm going to be transparent and tell you exactly how they taste.
Go for it, my friend.
There's some peanut butter in there.
A teeny bit. There's a teeny bit in there, actually, in there.
I'm allergic to peanut.
Mate, this is right there. See, right there is the nightmare.
Yeah.
What's really nice about doing the business, actually, the way that we're doing it, is the majority of the recipes are from real people. People at the gym, actually. Well, not just the gym. So it's a real pleasure, because people give me their... In fact, I'm actually in this room at the moment. There's a product which we haven't got here, which is based on a So CrossFitter has just made it through to quarterfinals this year, and it's her breakfast thing she always has, and usually she just tells me about it, and I've macro balanced it, blah blah blah. But now I'm like, that sounds great. Maybe other people could have this thing, and so now I get the chance to make it. And the really lovely thing about that is because we're small, right? We are small, so the people who come on board, I'm still open to. If you've got a recipe that you think is absolutely world-beating, because at the minute give it to me. Yeah, the minute the mantra is all killer, no filler, right? The best of every cuisine around the world, the top answer, like the best thing that people could have. Like for India, for example, it's tikka masala and biryani. It's not danzak. It's not something obscure. It's just let's make the classics the best we can make them. But if you have something that is just absolutely out of this world, like I've got a Lebanese molekeh on the plan, right? It was from one of my clients, and I'd never heard of it, to be honest. And it was just ridiculous. I was like, that's just got to go on. Great. So I'd call on this is an organic thing, but if there'll be things that we're missing, and you'll see the selection, you'll go, do you know what, Chris? It'd be really good if you could have this. We're not that big, so that can happen. And I'm agnostic about what you eat, right? This is the thing. I just want you to have it is a 4, 5, 6, 7, or 800 calorie. Because if you permit me one more thing, the reason that I think people have a hard time, my view is the reason people have a hard time hitting their goals with food is because, first off, they eat things, they don't eat things they like. So a lot of people go, I want a diet and I'm going to eat lettuce leaves and I don't like them. So they fall off. The second tier up from that is things that you do, things that you might eat, things that you like, but you got the calories wrong. And we all see those guys, oh, I like what I eat. Yeah, but you're 185 kilos sort of thing. That's not good either. But so the level above that is macros, but let's just forget macros for a minute. If you can eat the food you like and keep the calories in a reasonable place, that's enough.
You're winning.
That's enough.
Yeah. Well, mate, the chocolate cookie protein balls, I mean, they look pretty good. They look like
soccer balls, right?
A soccer ball, yeah. But they taste good. I give it a strong 8 out of 10.
Excellent. That's fine for me for now. And we'll keep on working on them, keep on improving. And that's the thing, right? Continuous improvement.
That's it, mate. I think most people will agree with me that, people watching and listening, we're definitely looking forward to the big reveal and the startup of Practical and you guys getting your meals out there and, having all these partnerships with different, whether it's coffee shops that deliver or whether it's gyms.
Yeah, coffee shop, gyms, cafes,
Alioth, whatever it might be, mate. We're super excited for you and for your business, and we'll be rooting for you.
Thank you.
Hopefully I will be on one of these meal plans.
You certainly will.
You're going to make it nice and easy for me.
I'll make it.
And I'm going to look even more hench this time next year because I've been on Practical for God knows how long.
Exactly. You can get a Practical tattoo, maybe.
I'll get a t-shirt at the best. And I want it now.
How is it going to work with your top off, though, Lloyd? That's the problem.
Right, Chris, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure, mate.
Thank you, and I'll see you all guys. See everyone in the gym soon.
Hopefully, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Thanks, guys.
Hi, guys.
A big thank you to our main podcast sponsor, Practical, for supplying guests with some tasty snacks, and you guys for watching on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe and let us know what you think by dropping a message in the comment section below.